I feel kind of violated in a way because I think, where's this information gone? It's been really frustrating. It's a really hopeless situation that I feel I have zero control over.
I do feel like I've had like a physical reset from the overwhelm and the like pent up trying to be a really good mom in these really, really tricky moments and trying not to.
And so anxiety can be there, but it doesn't have to hog the spotlight. That's what I was thinking about that. And being aware.
Hi, Helen. How are you?
Hi, Natalie. I'm good. The sun is shining
It
here.
is. Spring is upon
Sunday.
us.
Yay.
And how are you today? What is your woeful and wonderful? What are you bringing to the table today?
So today I have two different, they're not joined together as they sometimes have been, but I'll start with my woeful. So I am in the midst of a hacking experience.
No.
My social media has been hacked, and I'm surprised at how it feels to have this experience. I feel it. I feel so. It's my Facebook that's been hacked,
Mm-hmm.
and what happened was I kept getting messages saying that I had breached a copyright law or something, and I was getting loads of messages, and it was all looking like it was coming from Facebook, but
Mm-hmm.
I stupidly responded. On hindsight now, I can see what I did wrong.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I'm surprised at how it's made me feel. Almost, because Facebook, so I've got my personal Facebook, which has got my history, all my details, my kids growing up, all my photos, loads of information about me. That's bad enough. But then it's also my business Facebook as well.
Mm.
And I had just paid for Facebook ads because I want to promote stuff that we're doing and my swimming venture thing. And yeah, I'm annoyed at myself. I feel kind of violated in a way
Yeah.
because I think, where's this information gone? It's been really frustrating. It's a really hopeless situation that I feel I have zero control over. Um, but I have to remember that I haven't lost who I am and all the work that I am doing, but I
Mm-hmm.
have lost this information, and it's kind of just weird.
Yeah.
Um, but I stupidly engaged in a conversation, and then a code was sent to my phone, and then I realized I shouldn't have even engaged. And then I tried to block whoever. I mean, it looked like Facebook Messenger.
Yeah.
Then I got back, and my partner was shouting at me, saying, "What
Oh
the
no.
F and H have you done?" I was just made to feel small and stupid. Um, I mean, I've definitely learned from it, but the emotional impact, it's kind of real, I
Yeah.
feel
Yeah.
a loss of control, this kind of people in my space who's got my stuff. And there's no way of getting it back. I have been emailing, messaging, Facebook. Nobody's even responding. Nobody seems to care.
Oh no.
um, but the acceptance and commitment therapy skills that we talk about in this podcast are coming in very handy. Uh,
Yeah.
there's little I can do about it. And I guess I just have to keep chipping away at it until I find out. But I can't even open a new Facebook account because it's attached to my number.
Oh,
Um, and yeah, so I can't do anything. There's
oh.
nothing.
So that kind of like violation is what kind of stands out to me, and that like I'd be devastated to, like you said, like lose all of that, those photos, those memories, and like the journey that Facebook has been with us on. um but that violation, and like you said, that kind of like not knowing what to be able to do about
Yeah.
it.
And it's, so when my friends have been looking on to see if I'm still tagged in photos, I've disappeared from that as well. So it's completely
Oh
gone.
gosh.
Um, but I guess, the lessons that I've learned from it is that I think I am quite, I do adhere to security. I probably should have taken more care when messaging back. I maybe engaged in a conversation earlier than I would. I mean, there was a reason for that. Because I'd just been to Malta. I'd tagged the company that brought me over in a post. I was getting a lot of activity from that. So I think because of that, I responded in a different way.
Mm,
But using kind of mindfulness and ACT skills, I think before anyone proceeds with anything that they're suspicious of on Facebook, just pause for a moment and just be sure that it's all fine. So it's really enhanced my security awareness, I would
yeah,
say. So
the
there is a lesson.
vigilance.
Uh-huh. And it's really been an opportunity to kind of practice self-compassion. You know, I felt my partner was shouting at me, I was giving myself a hard time. You know, these people that do these things are way smarter than
Yeah, they're trained in it, right?
yeah. Um, but yeah, so that's my woeful. I'll
Yeah.
just leave it there. Watch this space, I would say. When I read into Facebook forums and what have you, I don't know if I stand a chance in hell in getting it back.
Oh,
So I'm just not sure if any of our listeners have any suggestions,
any tips would
any
be
tips
really helpful.
to get in touch. Let me know.
Yeah. How about your wonderful? Is there a wonderful that's kind of come
There
up in the last
is a
couple of weeks?
wonderful that I was kind of hinting at there. So I've been to Malta to do my menopause, navigating menopause using acceptance and commitment therapy workshop. I gave myself such a hard time instead of, I mean, in relation to how stressed I got about it. I was completely
Mhm.
overwhelmed leading up to it, but I took one step each day forward with my anxiety, and it was brilliant. I have had such a great
Amazing.
time. I really enjoyed it. I feel that you know, I was wanting to engage in all sorts of behaviors, like looking for reassurance from you. I was going to ask you to read my slides. I did about 1,000 slides. Obviously, I didn't do that many, but um, I was really criticizing myself. I was really doubting myself. But actually, I really worked on all of that. I put into practice everything we talk about. I was compassionate to myself. I changed my inner narrative. I turned it into an opportunity. And when I felt really anxious, I was doing things like jumping up and down in my hotel room and kind of swaying from side to side to get rid of that kind of energy.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
And I
yeah.
just kept walking and I found my voice. And you know what? The days were just fantastic. And I can't wait
Amazing.
to do our workshops now because I feel I've actually put into practice finding my voice.
Oh,
So that's,
amazing. Let's
yeah,
hear more about it as well. Like I'm
yeah.
gonna ask you some more about it.
What about
As well.
you? What's your woeful and wonderful that you're bringing today?
So mine are tied together. I know you usually always say that, don't you? That you end up tying your woeful and wonderful. We talk about that kind of two-sided coin in the work that we do. We use that metaphor a lot with the clients and people that we support. But my woeful and wonderful is kind of along that same kind of vein. My woeful is that I had a really difficult weekend with my two. My partner's on his different shift patterns, so he was working all weekend, and then he's working later into the evenings this week. So I was talking to a colleague earlier this morning, and I forget how much of a pull it is on me. I've kind of got into a bit of a rhythm at the moment of using a Saturday to work whilst he's
Mm-hmm.
running around with the kids in all the clubs and everything. And I really felt it this week that I missed that time. And I am working, but I'm very much in my own headspace. Um, I actually quite like working on the Saturday because you don't get as many emails through, you don't get the messages through, you don't kind of get chased up for stuff like there and then. And I've just got into a nice rhythm with it of having kind of like 5 or 6 hours to myself on that Saturday and just working. And obviously I didn't have that this week because I was out and about with the kids. And Saturday wasn't too bad. And then Sunday, me and my sister-in-law took my two swimming, and it was gorgeous. It was really nice. And I know this is my woeful side of things, but it's coming. So then after the swimming, we were all shattered, like all three of us, me and my daughter and my son, all really, really tired. And then just kind of started the noise. So my little boy's 2, and he just was screaming. He's got this like different pitch, and we've talked about it before, like he makes a car wobble and whatever, but he was doing it in the house, and he was really kind of like hitting out and screaming, and just we talk about like going the jellyfish. He just like goes floppy, but kind of doesn't know what to do with himself. He was just so tired, and I was trying to get him to lie down in bed. He wasn't having that. Tried to get him to go to sleep in his pram. He was screaming the place down, and it just like, I get so overwhelmed with the amount of noise and like not being able to help him in those situations. It gets me really kind of emotional and hecked up as well, and just the noise level generally. And then end up just giving up and letting him play, and he was just playing. I was like, right, we are getting to bed super early in the tonight even. It was
So
really,
you're
really
just
hard.
saying there about giving up. Was it giving up, or was it
Giving up the fight to get him to sleep. Giving up.
and
I'd already got really emotional. I'd already kind of like screamed myself, and I hate doing that. It was just like that overwhelm of just needing to, like you were saying, like pacing around the room, or I just needed to get that burst of energy out. And then I was like, right, I'm gonna press pause. We're gonna shift gears. I'm gonna make some pancakes. Gonna have something to eat. Like, let's just reset and go again, kind of thing. So I gave up trying to get him to sleep, just let him kind of play. And it tired himself out even more, but he was just kind of like wanted to be on his own then. So I just kind of let him play in with his cars and everything else. As I was making the pancakes, I came running through just to grab my phone, and my daughter was doing something sneaky. She was doing something with her book bag, and she doesn't touch her book bag like ever really at home unless we're getting the homework out or something. And I was like, what are you doing in your book bag? Don't look in my book bag. Don't look in my book bag. And she went into this like, don't do it, don't. And I was like, well, I'm going to look now because you're obviously doing something you shouldn't be doing. And she'd taken 2 different lip balms out of my bag and hid them in her book bag, which is, there's a whole big issue with the girls in school going in each other's book bags for lip balms and lip glosses and stuff at the moment. So it's a whole thing of her taking things that aren't hers. So then I asked her about it. She said she hadn't. I was like, okay. I was like, am I lying on top of this? So I was like, tell me the truth, or you need to go and be in your room for a minute because mummy needs a break. And she didn't. So then she went to her room, and then she was just being really sassy, really cheeky. I'm gonna tell daddy on this straw. And yeah, and then I was trying to like speak to her about it, and then she was like, I'm hungry. And I was like, right, I'll get you something to eat in a minute, but we're talking about this right now. She's like, when I want something, you have to get it right. And I was like, oh my gosh, what is this going to be like as a teenager? Like, she's only 4. So yeah, it was just really tricky. It was lots of noise from one then the other, and it was just a lot. I was feeling really overwhelmed.
but it sounds like the turning point, well, prior to Evelyn doing what she did, it sounds like the turning point for you was kind of letting go of the struggle that you were in at some
I
point.
try and do like resets. So it was kind of like dropping it in that moment and just being kind of like hitting my head against a brick wall. Let's try the next thing. And then the next thing came. So then yeah, there's turning points within it. And then I'd say kind of the turning point and the kind of lessons learned from it, or kind of what slips into my wonderful bit is I rang my husband. I was like, what time are you going to be home? When you get home, I need to go for a run and you need to take over. So kind of setting my boundary in that. And then he came in, we had a conversation together with my little girl. And then I said to him, I was like, right, I'm going to go for a run now. And he asked me in that moment, can you wait until I've read her stories to go for a run? And the quickest I've ever said no, I said no. I was like, no. I was like, why do I need to wait? Like, and then he said, like, our son was downstairs. I was like, I will bring him upstairs. He can do the stories with you. He can do his teeth. He needs to go to bed too. I was like, no, I need to go out right now. So that kind of tips into my wonderful is that I did go out for a run. I did another 5K run without stopping. And I'm looking at now I've not done it yet. It might be my actionable step, but I'm looking at booking myself in for a 10K run in a couple of weeks time. But I think kind of and kind of this where they tie together, but also with kind of my lessons learned is kind of being firm with my boundaries and like really listening to someone walking in
I
there,
did.
really listening to what I needed in that moment, and I needed to take some time. Like I needed to not be in the house where all the noise and difficulties had been. I needed to be on my own, doing something for me, and getting rid of all of this biz that I was feeling. So kind of tapping into those compassionate skills that we try and support
Mm-hmm.
our clients with, and that we try and support others with, like tapping into that for myself, but really listening at where my energy was. Like, because compassion can be that kind of taking yourself away, journaling, peace, and that kind of thing, or it can be going for a rage run, which is what I did, and getting it all out in that sense, and it
And
made me
letting
run
go of
faster.
struggle. Uh-huh.
Yeah, and letting go
Uh-huh.
of that struggle in it, but like it made me run faster. So like I was buzzing when I came, and like I was 1K in, and I was like, I just want to turn around. I don't want to be doing this. Like this isn't like I've
The
had enough.
joy of adrenaline in our body.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I was like, no, let's get to 2. If you get to 2.5, if you turn back, you've done 5K. And then once I was like in it, and like, because I use the Night Run app, and it tells you what your average
Yeah.
pace is every K and stuff. And I was like, actually, I'm going quicker here. So I think the rage running, plus it's starting to go dark, and like youths hanging around, just made me run that extra bit faster. And kind of, like you said, kind of really got that adrenaline and that kind of stuff out of me, that when I came back I was kind of like, I do feel like I've had like a physical reset from the overwhelm and the like pent up trying to be a really good mom in these really, really tricky moments, and trying not to bubble over and trying to reset, but still being quite heightened. I think I just kind of tuned into what my body was telling me about
Could I
what.
just pick up on something you said there about being a really good mum when your kids are acting out? What would that look like? Because I guess I just want to challenge you there and say, what would a really good mum do?
In my mind,
Are
it's
you?
staying calm, and I wasn't staying very calm. But bless her, like when I'd got really upset, when Benjamin was screaming at me, and I'd got like really upset, and I was crying. Evelyn came and brought me one of her really big teddies, and she was like, "Give this one a cuddle, like it'll make you feel better." And she was like rubbing me. She's like, "You're a good mummy," and I was like, "Oh," and she's like making me cry all the more. Like I can feel myself like choking now. It was really lovely. And then within 20 minutes, she was the one that I was then like, come on, kids.
But
Kind
you
of
know the
thing.
thing when you're describing that, because I don't think it's helpful to compare yourself or to think you're not being a really good mum when actually the challenges of motherhood can be really difficult. And I know when my kids were younger, I was a single, I was on my own bringing up my kids, and I had many days like that. And I can really hear how you're kind of doubling down on yourself, and
Mm-hmm.
it's it how does it help us? We're doing the best we can. It's a
Yeah.
it's a big demand on us when we're already trying to work and do all these other things.
Yeah. So I think it's just, yeah, that tuning into my values.
But using it to help you become bionic,
Yeah.
get you through
I
the
think it's
10K.
I think it's doing that kind of like, with what you were saying, of kind of like that reset and like tuning in, like it's that kind of, and a lot of the work that we do with the people that we support, and our clients and things like that, it's like we try and ask them to kind of tune in with their values. And I think that's what I try and do in those moments of being like, what I'm doing right now, the behaviors I'm doing don't feel aligned with what's
Yeah,
important to me. So actually let's pause, let's notice what is happening in my body. Like it's not Benjamin's fault, it's not Evelyn's fault, it's this situation and me feeling overwhelmed with the noise and the chaos. And actually like giving up on this struggle right now will help me kind of reset where
step
I
back.
am,
Yeah. Hmm.
to then be kind of like, okay, and then you're ready to, I don't know how ready I was, but it gets you somewhat more ready to face like the next challenge that might come along, or is very likely to come along. And then like calling on the resources around you, calling on that support to have that self-compassion to set the boundaries, to be like, no, I am going out now. Like the kids are well cared for, well catered for,
Yeah.
my husband's home. I need to go out and look after me in this moment. And you know, I'm like, I always have to set then a goal on top of that. So get into the 10K. And honestly, like I'm setting a 10K. I would look, I want to do a marathon at some point, and I want to do it before the end of the year. I want to do a half marathon, but
Well,
and
we could
because I'm
talk
already
about
doing,
that in a future,
yeah,
but I've entered a half marathon, but I haven't brought that up
oh,
here because that
nice.
would be like, yeah.
A whole thing in itself. But so because I'm doing the 5K and I've done two in the last week without stopping, like the 10K in, I think it's like 10 weeks time is the one I'm looking at doing, is like plenty achievable.
Mm-hmm.
But my added thing on top of that is then doing it in a crowd. I'm not good in crowds, so actually like doing it, signing up to be able to do that in a crowd is what my like kind of
Well, it's
challenge
a
in
good
itself is.
experience. I used to do it quite often, and
Yeah,
yeah,
I've done
you
them in the
certainly feel the
past.
nerves a bit more. Do it, do it.
Yeah. Okay. Will do. But yeah, so that's my woeful wonderful, very kind of like tied together, and definitely kind of things to probably for us to explore more as well
Mm,
in future episodes for sure.
for sure.
But yeah, thank you for your kind words in that as
Mm,
well. We all try and support each other in these things.
for
And
sure.
speaking of which, shall we dive into the topic? So, what we want to talk about today is presenting
Mm,
and getting our voice out there and things. Because we come from different confidence backgrounds, perhaps in this, and different experiences of those kind of things, but more because I just want to hear more about your presentation and how everything went in Malta, and yeah, it sounded amazing and you absolutely
yeah.
smashed it. So tell us some more about it, and tell us what your kind of perspective is from like a womanhood point of
Well, I
view
guess
as well.
the problem for me, it's all tied into why we're doing this podcast, but it's about this um just long-standing issue I have about speaking up and speaking out. And I guess throughout my career, particularly in the NHS, I always managed to kind of so the behaviour, the unworkable behaviours I would engage in would be just avoidance. I just would refuse to do anything to speak up. I mean, I guess in nurse training, like way back when I was a general nurse back in, I won't even say the decade, it was a while ago, but I can remember, and I think I've probably got a little bit of something in my memory bank from this that feeds into now, but I can remember doing a presentation. It was on, I think it was on the liver or something, and having to stand up in front of the whole class and really feeling it in a very visceral way to the point where I actually couldn't speak anymore. And I felt so ashamed and so embarrassed that I think that sort of still haunts me, and
Mm,
I've been bringing that with me to any of these things, you know. And even when I was a general nurse doing ward rounds and speaking up in front of a small group of people, I would find that really difficult. But the narrative is always, "Oh, you're not good enough," or "You don't know enough," or "They know more than you." So that's really the stuff that this workshop in Malta gave me a brilliant opportunity to really touch base with.
yeah,
Um,
work through it.
and really work through it in a way that, you know, I use ACT, I use acceptance and commitment therapy in everyday life all of the time, but I really put myself through it for this workshop. And it really, I feel I've now given myself some distance and separation from those narratives. And actually, what I was saying to myself was, Helen, this is a really great opportunity to go to a country and learn about the struggles that the women have there, and to share your knowledge, because I do have knowledge. I have looked into this. Uh, I do know about menopause from a personal and a professional. I've just done so much work on it, and I can also apply the ACT skills. And actually, you know, there were so many things I wanted to do, like reassurance seek. I wanted to say I was ill. I went through everything, I was going to phone my GP and ask for, which is what I would tell my patients not to do, but I was going to phone my GP and ask for beta blockers. I had it all down on the list. And I thought,
Mm-hmm.
no, this is okay. You've got this. This is an opportunity. Just keep going. Be in the present moment. Just arrive. And I did all of that. And then I stood there. I had a bit of nerves at the beginning, and it normally comes through in my voice. But the
Mm-hmm.
first few slides were just introducing myself. And once I got past that, I was right in there. And I think because of the nature of kind of Maltese people, they're quite vocal and nicely
Mm-hmm.
vocal. And women talking about women's issues when their struggles is an amazing thing to be part of.
Yeah.
Um, and and there were just so many lovely people. They were so supportive, and so I mean everyone there had some sort of struggle that we were all talking about. So I took them through the day and we practiced some act skills. And I mean when I left at the end of the first day, I did have, oh, that didn't go very well. I was giving myself a hard
Yeah.
time. But then they showed me all the feedback forms, and it was like, oh, okay.
Oh, amazing.
So I've still to get more details about that. And then the second day I went back, and the nerves were nothing like they were the day before. I just did a keynote, so it was like a shortened version, but it was all very, it was kind of stakeholders,
Yeah, yeah.
um, women who were really keen to talk about this stuff. And I was just a facilitator there at the end of the day. And
Oh, that's
what an
amazing.
opportunity! What an opportunity!
Oh,
Um,
incredible.
so yeah, it was really good. It was really good, I think, especially where we're at in terms of our journey, and doing the workshops that we're talking about, to have this really vivid, really experiential thing for me
Yeah.
to bring with me so that I can, share that with others. But it's interesting because I know, you were kind of in my mind as well, because you don't have any of what I described, or I don't think you do. My perception is that you don't. You see doing these.
I get really excited.
Yeah,
But I've worked a lot on that kind of like nerves and excitement sit in like similar places in my body, and the connection with I'm talking about like how my body feels in a lot of these kind of situations today, but definitely kind of like that nerves and excitement sitting in the same kind of, and how closely linked they are in
yeah,
sensation wise. And I think kind of supporting other people to speak out and supporting other people to present and things like that. I don't know, I don't know if it's from like my childhood and my kind of experience in education of being in groups of people, and no one would kind of be the first person, so I'm like, oh right, okay, I'll do it then,
yeah,
and then supporting others in the group to like play their part in it as well.
yeah.
I
See,
think that's
that's a
kind of
very
like
different
helped.
experience to mine, because even at school, I can remember if, say, for example, we were taking turns in reading something or speaking out loud, I would really become quite
Mm,
anxious there. So I would sit quietly for the whole class rather than
yeah.
put myself forward to speak up.
Yeah. And like, I'm not saying like I've always been really confident at it. It's definitely something I've like worked at and had a go. But then there's certain like metaphors I think that stick with me, and I tell like supervisees this, or like other people that I'm like helping or supporting, and when they're kind of really worried about approaching other people. And like there's that kind of cliche one of like, oh, imagine the audience naked or whatever, and I was like, I
Mhm.
find that really awkward.
Yeah.
But then the one thing that like kind of, well, there's kind of two, and I think I've said them both to you in the past, and when we went through, like, you initially went through your presentation like a few months ago, is like, so the two I draw on is everybody poos. So like we're all human, and I know it's a bit like gross and whatever, but it's got that comedy edge to it as well. Like everyone poos, like everyone in this
Yeah,
room,
we're
we're
all the
all
same. We're all
equal.
part of the
Yeah.
same thing. Yeah.
And we can all kind of, so even when you feel like there may be people that you need to speak to that are higher up the hierarchy than you, or you present into a big crowd, it's kind of bringing back that humanity into it. And then also, and you kind of touched on it there when you were giving your explanation, is that what you know more about what you're talking about than the people in the audience know, or like, because you've designed your slides, like you've researched and you put this stuff together. So like that's something else I was kind of trying to bring to the table as much as and then also like even the other day I was teaching my online class, and one of the students said to me, oh, actually that's changed in the diagnosis criteria or whatever. And I'm like, okay, cool, like thanks for letting me know, like that's an update I didn't know of yet, you know, and I know that it's going to be updated further. I was like, but cool, we're all learning from each other, you know. So actually kind of taking on feedback as a helpful insight, and
Yeah.
almost kind of like allowing myself to not know everything as well. Like it's okay that I don't know absolutely everything even about what I'm presenting perhaps, and actually like that was really, really helpful. Thank you for letting me know. That's added to my knowledge base now, like let me continue adding to yours with what I do know, kind of thing. So
Mm-hmm.
but I think it does take time, and like, and then if I'm having an off day I might struggle a little bit more and would rather kind of sit back and not be that person. But yeah, I do kind of throw myself into it, I'd say.
Yeah. It's interesting, isn't it? You know, and a lot of it's to do with how you relate to yourself doing that thing.
And there's definitely other things that I struggle to speak up and out about. You know, there's definitely other things that so I suppose like the difference maybe is that if it's something I feel like I know about, or like I guess I feel less vulnerable in presenting to a crowd like that than I would to talk about something that is more of a vulnerable thing for me, if that makes sense. Like that might be harder
What, sharing
in.
a story or something like that?
Yeah,
Mm.
I remember once and I did it, you know, but I was like really freaking out more so than I would normally. I presented with the perinatal special interest group
Mm-hmm.
for the World Conference,
Mm-hmm.
which was terrifying because I was presenting as an expert by experience. So I was actually talking about my journey and my experience of birth trauma, and that was terrifying. Like I can't remember any of it now. I'd forgot I'd even done it until I saw the presentation the other day, and I was like, oh my gosh, yeah. Like and it was a very like I think it was like 15-20 minutes, I think, in amongst other ones. So it was like hidden as well.
Mm-hmm.
Um
But it's
and
like
yet
that sort
we're
of
here doing this podcast, aren't we? You know, and we're
yeah.
sharing kind of vulnerable things, but it feels safer as it's me and you kind of talking and then kind of going out from there. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think this has really helped. So doing this has really helped me kind of be more confident in speaking up. And actually, the one thing I didn't tell you that was really funny was prior to going to Malta. I don't know if I told you this, but they said, "Oh, we're gonna, you know, they want you to appear on a TV show, a live TV show."
Yeah, you did say. I was
And it was
like,
just like
Helen's famous in Malta
Malta.
now.
Yeah, it was like it was great. I mean, even that was because even thinking, God, I'm doing this quite willingly, sitting in I had to go to a cafe in the village next door and have this. I mean, I think that it's the biggest TV show in Malta and it was live.
Amazing. That's
And
so cool.
I think that really helped too because I thought, okay, I'm doing this podcast. Come on, Helen. I've now done a live TV show with a big audience. I've done all these quick book events, and I'm not really underselling myself, you know. Yeah, but
And that
yeah,
kind of pressing pause and taking stock
hmm
again, you know, that kind of actually, you know, you
there's
are
an old
doing these
narrative that
things.
tells you these
Yeah.
things that you're not, but there is actually the
So hi Helen. Hi again.
hi again, Natalie.
Hi, we got cut off yesterday, but we wanted to make sure that we kind of rounded everything off and closed with our open, aware, and engaged, like we always do with our podcast. So, after kind of the topic we were talking about yesterday of you doing your grand appearance of open speaking and talking in Malta and everything else, and kind of talking about our different backgrounds, right, of how we approach these kind of events and public speaking, I guess. What did you find was your kind of open, aware, and engaged take homes?
So I guess that for me, struggling with public speaking like I have, I wanted to leave people with this, like being open. Public speaking anxiety isn't something to fight against, and when we let go of the struggle, we can public speak and hold place for anxiety. And so anxiety can be there, but it doesn't have to hog the spotlight. That's what I was thinking about that. And being aware, I guess for me, what I was really moving into this time was being aware of how my past narratives were showing up in my present, and actually they were taken away from the opportunity that I was given to speak about something that I'm quite passionate about. So
Yeah.
I was aware of that. And I was having thoughts like I'll make a fool of myself, but they didn't have to take over. And actually, the most important thing out of that whole experience was that I was engaged in something that really mattered. You know, this whole podcast and everything we're doing about speaking up for women in the workplace and beyond. You know, I'm really passionate about helping women in midlife. I was given an opportunity and I engaged in an activity that took me towards that.
Yeah, like super engaged moment, right?
Yeah, very
Yeah.
engaged.
Yeah. So kind of tapping into mine, it's like open, kind of being open to, because I shared when we were discussing it, that um sometimes I do feel vulnerable, and I get kind of a little bit nervous, but typically I kind of feel excited about public speaking and that kind of thing. But one of the things I kind of walked away from and was kind of being like, okay, being open to exploring what does and doesn't make me feel comfortable, kind of what's happening, whether it's something in my body or something about the environment or the audience that I'm speaking to, like what is it that doesn't make me feel comfortable in those situations, or what about it I'm okay with, I'm just kind of like exploring that a little bit. I just kind of like throw myself into it. But actually, because you always say like, oh, you're so confident and you can do it, but then I'm kind of like, yeah, sometimes, not always,
Mm-hmm.
typically, yeah. And then other times I'll do it, but not feel super comfortable as
Mm-hmm.
well. So kind of being open to exploring that for myself, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And being aware of one of the things I think I said out loud whilst we were talking about it yesterday, and kind of an in the moment realization for me perhaps is that kind of um, noticing that it's harder for me to do when it is something that's a bit more of an expression of vulnerability for me, and actually holding that, what that vulnerability tells me, of the importance of what I'm conveying or what I'm sharing, or again, kind of what it is about that makes me feel vulnerable, perhaps
Mm-hmm.
like whether it's a topic or whether it's a audience or the environment, I don't know, but kind of being aware that perhaps there's something in that for again kind of for myself to explore, and that kind of might land with other people as well that do feel a little bit more confident in public speaking, and there's still these kind of like moments of not wanting to because of some kind of vulnerability, or yeah, that was something else that kind of stood out to me in that kind of aware thing. And then the engaged, so like kind of what I'm going to go on to kind of be engaged with, like really engaged in our conversation, and just lovely to see you kind of like smiling and feeling so vibrant about having kind of worked through some of your anxiety around it and absolutely smashed it, and you're famous in Malta now, which is really exciting. But kind of like really engaged with what that's meant for you, and then kind of wanting to engage with and reflect on my own practice of kind of tracking, that like I feel like what you shared is how you kind of tracked your experience through it. You've been aware of the anxiety and the worry and the past kind of monologue that's been with you during this, and you've managed to track kind of what's happened for you. So just kind of I'm kind of bringing it all together, but being more open with myself, being aware when I am presenting and engaging and tracking
Mm-hmm.
that, what that looks like for me and how it feels and that kind of thing. And then definitely, like, and I know like it's something we're working on together, but us kind of engaging to support more people to do this. Like again, the whole title of the podcast is Unspoken, you know, we're about kind of like helping and trying to support each other, and support
Mm.
other women to speak out, and just kind of like setting that stage for other people, and that perhaps like part of something I can and try and help with and support even like my supervisees or colleagues and friends, you know, supporting them to be more comfortable with public speaking.
I guess it's about sitting with that or changing the relationship with, because I think what I realize more than ever, I've always known this, but because I've really experienced it, it's not about trying to be fearless and getting rid of the fear, because you can't do these things without that. Like, that's part of the
Hmm.
journey, but it's about just being in the present moment, doing the thing, and
Yeah,
having fear and still doing the thing.
definitely, definitely. Oh, it's been actually really nice for us to kind of bring it all together and have this reflection now. So thank you, Helen. I'm glad we've not got cut off this time. But yeah, thank you. And I
Yep.
will look forward to catching up with you next time.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Natalie, and
Thank
see you
you.
soon. Bye.
Bye, bye, bye.